Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, October 26, 2022. We do have a quorum present, so I'd like to call to order this regularly scheduled hybrid meeting of the Chittenden Solid Waste District Board of Commissioners. Before we begin with the agenda, I just want to point out that our Executive Director, Sarah Reeves, is on vacation tonight and will not be present for the meeting, but staff is here, and I'm confident they'll be able to capably answer any questions and address any issues that come up at tonight's meeting. The first item on the agenda is the agenda itself, which you have in front of you as part of your board packet. Are there any requests to change or add anything to the agenda? I'm hearing none in this room, and I'm seeing none on Zoom, so the agenda will be accepted as presented. Second item on the agenda is the public comment period. There are no members of the public present here in the Williston Town Office. Are there any members of the public on Zoom or on the phone who would like to address the board?
Or not?
I am hearing none, so we will close the public comment period and move on to the consent agenda, which is item 3 on the agenda. The consent agenda consists of the minutes of the September 28th, 2022 board meeting, program updates, the executive director update, where she pointed out specifically some issues that we will be addressing as we develop our budget for next year. Just wanted to make sure all the commissioners were aware of that. The standard finance report. Also, the fourth quarter financials, wrapping up our last fiscal year. I believe we'll be going into our fiscal year 22 financials in greater detail next month. Our financial director, Nola, is not with us tonight as well, but that's part of the packet of the consent agenda. And then finally, a motion to authorize the executive director to enter into a contract for resurfacing the ODF. Are there any requests to remove any of the items from that consent agenda? I'm hearing none. I'm seeing none. The consent agenda then will be accepted as presented. Next item on the agenda, item 4, the diversion report, which begins on page 31 of your board packet. This is kind of our annual report card, both of the district and our communities and how well they're doing. I believe John Dorwart is going to walk us through that, the highlights of this year's report.
Yes, thank you, Paul. Let me share my screen here. Can everyone see that?
Yes, we can see it here.
Hear me well? Okay, great. Well, thanks again, Paul. Tonight, I just would like to give you provide you with an overview of the metrics that we use to aid in the evaluation of our programs, and then take a look at the 2021 diversion and disposal data as it compares to 2020. I want to make a shout out to Nancy Plunkett, who retired this summer. She mentored me through the process of developing this report, and with great help, and it's a hard act to follow. I'd also like to thank Ethan Hausman and Janine McCrum, who have had a hand in data collection throughout the year. This is a project that takes a little bit of everyone's time. And Nancy and Michelle and Sarah all gave me some eagle-eyed copy editing as well, so I appreciate that.
John, before you continue, I know in this room the audio is a little difficult to hear. I don't know if other computers on Zoom are able to hear it clearly.
Yeah, let me...
If anyone out there is unable to hear it clearly, if you could just let us know.
Yeah, I'm unable to hear fully.
Let me bring up the meeting controls. You'll have to... There they are. I'll just see if I can get my microphone to be a little bit more sensitive.
And perhaps a little closer. It's just a tad echo, I guess.
I'll have to lead into the screen. Okay. Okay. So the purpose of the diversion report is to help us evaluate how well our members in the district are utilizing CSWD and private sector facilities programs, and in order to reduce their waste by way of diversion. It also helps, it also fulfills our state reporting requirements and allows us to provide more information to the general public, media, other communities and organizations who interface with the district. This report only includes material that has been generated within Chittenden County. You all hear me still, or is there any problems?
I think we're okay here in this room.
A little bit better.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just have to speak up. I'm often quietly spoken. The metrics that are covered in our solid waste diversion report are the diversion rate, disposal rate, recovery rate, and the environmental impacts of diversion itself. The diversion rate actually was first calculated by Nancy in 1993, and that is essentially all material diverted over what had been generated in the county, what has been generated in the county. The disposal rate was added later. That is a per capita per day calculation of disposed material. That is the same metric used by the Agency of Natural Resources for their statewide progress reports. And our recovery rate is the percentage of targeted divertible materials that we recover in certain programs like the Blue Bin Recycling Program or Blue Bin Recyclables and Organics. So it gives you different insights into how we are able to, how well we are recovering material based on waste composition studies that we also conduct every couple of years. And that just gives us a sense of what is being disposed that could have been diverted given our current programs and policies. The environmental impacts of greenhouse gas emissions is simply a calculation of CO2 equivalent tons that are saved from our diversion activities, and that is calculated using the EPA WARM model. You're familiar with that. All right, so some of the highlights of our report, I would call this the rebound year, post-pandemic. I wouldn't call it exactly recovery, but maybe acclimatization. Total solid waste generation was up 12.5% from the prior year. Tons disposed increased slightly, however, tons diverted increased significantly. A bit more details on that. C&D tons disposed increased to the highest level since 2013. And tons diverted remained lower than usual, but about 25% higher than 2020. The MSW diversion rate remained high at 53%. We actually crossed the 50% marker for the first time last year. And this is a point of comparison in 1993, I believe it was around 31%. So definitely we've made strides over the years. And as well, our recovery rate for mandatory recyclables decreased very slightly in that 1 year period. So the details regarding MSW, we increased about 1.6% to 86,800 tons this current year, and that bumped up our per capita rates ever so slightly. We diverted over 14% more than last year. And so this is kind of interesting. Clearly, we had a rebound in economic activity as we acclimatized to sort of a post-COVID world. And I think in part to account for that, not only the increase in business activity in tourism and reduced public health restrictions, but also there was continued arrangements of hybrid work. So where we had gone to sort of a goods-based economy for a period, now we are still relying on some of those goods as we work from home and also utilizing services more as well. And so that might explain some of the bump up in both generation and potentially in diversion. There's been significant increases in paper, clean wood, and food residuals diverted. There was a significant rebound in the amount of electronics diverted and a large increase in diverted textiles. Why that was? Well, as Nancy had mentioned a year ago, we had a large standing inventory of clean wood at the bunker near the McNeil generating station. So that was taken in, accounted for about 63% of our clean wood. recovered and utilized there. We actually take now all of the clean wood from our CSWD facilities. That's about 27% from this year, and utilize that at the organics diversion facility and the processing of compost. Increases in paper and food residuals are likely due to, as I mentioned, a return to normalcy or near normalcy. And of course, last year was the first full year of the food ban instituted by Act 148. So we saw an uptick in organics being diverted as well. Increased textiles, through communication I had with folks at Goodwill and Resources, likely due to increased donations, people cleaning out their attics and closets, I suppose, as well as some backed up inventory. The diversion rate is calculated as total material diverted from our MSW stream over what is generated. This is increased by 3% over the last year. I'm not sure if we'll continue to see such increases, but certainly a nice rebound to see, and also to be able to maintain that that proportion over 50%. How does this compare to the nation as a whole? Well, the latest data, the most recent data we have from the US EPA is that the diversion rate to 2018 was about 32%. From Vermont, we know the state reported about 36% in 2019. And if we were to look at other high-performing communities across the country, such as Seattle or San Francisco, we're in league with their programs. So that's also great news and similar to what we've seen in the past. Hitting the wrong buttons. There we go. Okay, the maximum diversion rate is a slightly different calculation. That is the tons diverted from the waste stream, the municipal solid waste stream, plus tons disposed that are currently divertible over all generations. So this is what we think, given our current programs and policies, is the maximum amount of material we can divert from the waste stream. And as you can see from the prior slides, that 53% is not quite to 80%, but we're gaining on it, which is, again, some welcome news. Greenhouse gas emissions are pegged at about 190 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, and that is the same as taking off 40,000 cars from the road every year. So that is a generally good contribution to our environment. Taking a look at our C&D numbers, those increased last year. The disposed C&D increased by about 9%. So again, we're in that rebound here. The amount diverted was up actually an astounding 25%. Now, to explain that, we also had a large amount of asphalt and concrete that had sidelined due to projects postponed during the pandemic. So that certainly was a large reason why we were seeing an increase in diversion for C&D. The meeting we had last month, of course, showed us that even though our diversion is increasing, we're still a little bit below normal, and part of that is due to a lack of end markets. That we saw that with Myers and the problem with asphalt shingles, and also it's likely that a labor shortage could be impacting that to some degree. But at any rate, there's a substantial amount of C&D recycling still happening in the county, and that continues through Myers and Rangers and Pikes and Whitcomb's operation, and so we are actually doing pretty well in that regard as it is. Our maximum diversion rate calculated for C&D, that would be the ideal. In 2021 would be about 80%, and we're at 71.9% now. That is up from 69% in 2020. So also a reasonably good piece of news. For those of you who aren't familiar with alternative daily cover, this is a material that is used in normal operations in a landfill. It's used to cover the operating face at the end of a day to avoid problems with vectors or fires, odors, blowing litter, and that sort of thing. In Vermont, alternative daily cover consists primarily of contaminated soil, but not hazardous soil. And it has to be approved by the state. That was up 58.6% from 2020. Of course, it's entirely dependent on the number and size of projects for any given year. So this can vary tremendously. It's kind of one of our wild card materials that can really change what our diversion report figures turn out to be in any event. We also, as you know, charge 25% of our solid waste management fee on that material because it's utilized under a beneficial use. For a historical perspective of MSW and C&D tons diverted, since 2011, we are disposing about 7,400 tons less MSW, and you can see that with the red line in this graph. And that is despite the impacts of COVID, population increase over that 10-year period of about 12,000 people, in addition of 2,500 business establishments over that 10-year period, and about 2,000 employees. The sharper increase you can ascertain from 2016 on to about 2019, that is to some extent an artifact of our data. We started our business reporting requirements at that point, so we were actually gathering more information from companies who were sending material to other facilities. This is in regards to MSW diverted. I'll be back up there. And so we started to collect more information on how material might be leaked in the county that is also diverted, and that helps increase our diversion rate to some extent. Again, the diversion rate also increased ever so slightly over the last few years because of the full implementation of Act 148. So more and more organics have been diverted from the waste stream. In regards to C&D diverted, the green line shows a dramatic jump in 2015 and 16, and that is when we had 2 new recycling facilities come online. That leveled out from 2016 to 2017. We had one of the facilities closed on Redmond Road at that point. And then you can, of course, see the drop in C&D diversion during the pandemic. It's rebound to 2021. And C&D disposal in and of itself has been, although declining for a 10-year period, it has steadily increased from 2015 to 2021. Our disposal rates, that is the per capita per pound disposal rates of MSW and C&D, have decreased as well over the last 10 years. We're currently at about 14% less or lower MSW disposal rate per cap as we were in 2011, and for C&D, we are also down a bit, but again, showing that drift in the last 5 or so years, a slight upward trend there. This chart shows our diversion rates over the last 10 years. Both of those rates have been increasing. Of course, you can see with C&D the bump when those recycling facilities came on, so a shift as facilities availability came online. MSW diversion has increased about 8.4 points since 2011, so it's about a 15% or 18% increase, and C&D has increased almost 10 points over that same 10-year period. Our recovery rates for specific targeted materials, first we look at blue bin recyclable. That has remained steady over the last year. It's up from about 79% in 2019. So what that is of course, the amount of blue bin recyclables that we do recover over what we think could be recovered. So certain increment that is ultimately disposed when it otherwise could be recovered. MSW recyclables and organics combined increased almost 3 to 4%. That's I think showing you the impact of the full implementation of Act 148. And again, we don't have a lot of good points of comparison for these data points. The best that we have currently is a study done by the Recycling Partnership regarding blue bin recyclables, and they pegged those communities in the United States who have curbside pickup, their recovery rate somewhere in the neighborhood of 61.5%. So in light of that, we're doing fairly exceptional performance. Nonetheless, this chart shows you the total amount of material that was landfilled in 2021 and our best estimate as to the portion of that material that could have been recovered. That is as much as 60,000 tons when you include C&D, blue bin, special recyclables, and organics. Overall, our diversion and disposal data, I think, provides some good and encouraging news, especially related to how the amount of materials our residents and businesses are diverting from disposal. That's over 170,000 tons diverted as compared to 120,000 approximately tons disposed. Still, we know that there's a large portion of material going to the landfill, and without any major interventions to our solid waste system, we can expect that, short of a major recession at least, solid waste generation and disposal will continue to increase. But I'm optimistic. We have a lot of tools still at our disposal, investments in our own facilities, making it more convenient for our folks in our community to gain access to those facilities that allow special recycling and the disposal, proper diversion, disposal of organics are all things that are under our control and we can encourage, as well as education and business and community outreach. So on that note, does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, John, for your presentation. Yes, if maybe we can go back to a full screen on Zoom so commissioners have comments and questions. I actually have I have a few comments, but I don't want to steal the show here, to take the floor. But I'll take a first crack at it. My first question is, are there similar statistics, or are there statistics like this that are published by other solid waste districts in Vermont? If so, have you looked at them, and how do we compare to those in detail? I know we're leading and we're coming across as one of the national leaders, but I wonder how we're doing with other districts in the state.
Well, compared to the state as a whole, our per capita rates are actually a little bit lower, but our diversion rates are considerably higher. I'm not aware of other solid waste districts reports at this time. I'm newly minted in this world, but something I'll definitely dig into more and present in a future presentation. Maybe Jennifer Holliday would have some information. She's well ensconced in this.
I believe they have to report on per capita, but not on diversion, so I am not sure. And I think it's very difficult to compare because of the, what's included would potentially be different in different areas. In other words, for example, the textiles that you reported, John, they may not get those reports from donation centers.
Right.
So I think it would be very difficult to compare it if they even do collect that data.
Great. Very true, I think.
I can move on with another observation that go back to, I think it's slides 5 and 6. Just the per capita pounds, this jumped out at me, and I thought it was a good story, that the MSW pounds per capita per day was 2.74, and the diverted material pounds per capita per day was 3.18. So I mean,
Yeah.
solidly, we're diverting more on a pound-for-pound basis per person who is included in this calculation. I thought that was a significant improvement. I believe last year they were almost the same. The rates, or the pounds per capita per person were 2.74, 2.76, very, very close. I don't know if this is a trend that will continue, but I thought that was good news, something we could all be proud of as residents and waste generators, that we're clearly, we're on a pound-for-pound basis diverting more. I thought that was a good sign.
Absolutely. Organics, I think, had a big part of that.
On the other hand, I personally am disappointed to still see that 50% of material that goes to the landfill could theoretically be diverted, and that's just an existential disappointment. I know it's never going to be achievable, but I wish it could be better, and I know we're doing a good job. All of us in the county are doing a good job, but I wish that were better.
Absolutely.
And then my last question is, are there any red flags from staff? You people live and are in on this business all day long, every day of the week, or 5 days a week at least. Are there any red flags or concerns that you would bring to the attention of the board, things that we ought to be aware of that might need attention, that we could help focus improvement on? And I throw it up to anybody on staff.
Well, I think one thing that we've learned over the last 2 years is that there are a lot of economic factors that are beyond our control. So the pandemic was a lesson in that. We also saw that disposal and diversion seems to be fairly resilient in the county. The trends seem to be fairly constant. So I think we're headed in the right direction.
I'd give a shout out to the educational services that the district provides. I think that probably plays a big role in the good numbers.
Ken has a question. Yeah. Ken?
Oh, I was thinking about the diversion statistics around around food scraps and compliance with, what was it, 148 that you said? I still bump into a lot of people who don't seem to know that it's the law. How are you guys feeling about, people getting on board with that, or things that we could be doing in our communities, or are we happy with the amount of food scraps that are being diverted, or are we disappointed in what's next about that?
Jennifer, I would be cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I would say that we're doing very well. We understand that Chittenden County is the revolving door of new residents, and that education never will stop, or never will have to stop. And I would also mention that the state of Vermont has just kicked off a statewide education campaign about food scrap diversion. So that will hopefully help us as well.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from commissioners on on this report? I think we're ready then to move on. Thank you very much, John, for stepping up. Maybe we'll be seeing you again for many years to come to present this report to us. I hope so. We're ready then to move on to item number 5, an update on the materials recovery facility bond vote. There is a memo in the packet, but Jen, I'll turn it over to you if you want to call out anything to bring to our attention.
Sure. We are 13 days away from Election Day, and I'm very excited about that, and I'm sure you all are as well. We've been busy with the Murph Bond Vote campaign. As outlined in the memo, we have continued this month with paid digital ads. We also sent out a second postcard aimed at voters that showed up at the polls in 2020. We've done several in-person presentations. We have some letters to the editor and op-eds that have gone out and been published. And then we've had some media mentions, Front Porch Forum that we've posted last week, I believe, informing voters about the opportunity to vote and how to get their ballots. And then also we will be posting next week again in Front Porch Forum. We've increased our tours last month and this month with school groups and businesses in the general public at the Murph. We also have this week I've been interviewed and gave a tour to 7 Days Reporter. That will be coming out next Wednesday. I think that will be quite extensive given his questions that he keeps having, which is great. More people will be informed at that point as well. I also was interviewed by a reporter for the Shelburne News, Citizen, and the other paper. So there should be something coming up on that soon. I've seen a couple of postings from commissioners on Front Porch Forum. We do appreciate that very much. And I've contacted the town clerks last week to check in and just see how it was going with the request for ballots. And last week, I had 11 of the towns report back. Burlington was missing from that 11. That number on the memo, 4,752 ballots had been requested by the town clerks. The updated figure that includes all but 3 towns, and it does include Burlington. We're up to 6,343 requests. That was Monday. So I think, the number, when you look at the population, or I should say registered voters, when you're comparing that, it's only about 5%. At this point, obviously, in-person is going to really increase that percentage. Given the difficulty this year with the combination of the general election ballot being mailed to all voters in Vermont, getting the word out and getting people to act on requesting our ballot is obviously challenging. But I think that 5%, and obviously it being increased when there's in-person, I think that's pretty decent considering that situation.
Thanks, Jen. Questions and comments from commissioners? Paul Stabler.
Yeah, I don't know, Jen, if you heard, there was a report that I think came out like Monday, I forget which organization it was, but it was about plastics recycling, and it was dismal. And my concern about that was that it might lead some people to say, why does CSWD need a new recycling facility when really plastics aren't recycled? So I don't know if we need to go out and respond to that, but I'm sure I'm not the only person that heard that. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of it and, maybe get you to consider that.
Thank you, Paul. I just want to say for the record, for the public that is watching or does watch this, that numbers that are put out there about plastics recycling generally reflect, EPA uses all plastics available. So when they're talking about plastics, they're talking about durable goods as well as single-use plastics, as well as, blue bin recyclables. So it's a very large, amount of material. A very small fraction of that is eligible for blue bin recycling. So I just want to shed some light on that information. whoever is putting out it for a variety of reasons, you know, I'm not saying that it's not a problem, but in terms of blue bin recycling, as John Dorwer pointed out, we in Chittenden County are doing exceptional in terms of diverting plastic out of the waste stream. Chittenden County is doing great participating in that program, in the blue bin program, and I assure that the plastics that we ship out are being recycled.
Yeah, isn't it true, Jen, that staff has verified that where they're shipped to is recycling? I was just thinking that's a great message to get out to the public
Yeah.
if they haven't heard it. So that was my thought.
Thank you.
Jen, I have a question. I don't know if you would have the answer to that. How much more time is available to voters who request an absentee ballot, either through their My Voter page, but essentially through the My Voter page, to make that request, to get the ballot mailed back to them in their hands in time for them to vote, and either mail the ballot back to their town office or drop it off at their office? Do you have a
Yeah.
sense of how much more time we have?
It's dependent on the mail system, Paul. So if, you know, I've heard in some towns that the mail is somewhat slow. And we don't have any deadline or control over that. I have advised my family members who have had to request it to do it now and get it mailed back quickly.
Because the process is, if you go through the My Voter page, it goes to the state transmits that information back down to the town sends out, I believe, the ballot. I'm almost positive that's what happened in my case.
Yes.
I got a mailing from the town
Yes.
office with this ballot. So, yeah, there are a lot of steps along the way.
I will say that a phone call to the town clerk is much quicker than probably doing that, but you know.
So I'm asking the question really for the benefit of other commissioners who might be motivated still to put the word out that if there is time to request an absentee ballot, that it's better now to call directly to your town clerk.
And most towns have a drop box.
Yep.
If you're driving by the town offices, you can just drop it off on the way home from work or wherever. So you don't necessarily have to wait for the mail to pick it up from your mailbox and get it back to the town clerk.
One other comment, I'd heard that VPIRG also came out, I think, in support of the bond issue. So folks who pay attention to VPIRG, hopefully they got the word too, that this has their seal of approval.
Yes, that was sent to all their members. Yep.
Other comments and questions on the Murph bond vote? This is our last time to meet before the election, so,
Go out and vote, please.
yeah. I'm not hearing any other comments from commissioners on this. Thanks for the update, Jen, and I think we're all wishing for a good vote here. Next item on the agenda is an executive session for the purpose of discussing contract negotiations. Do we have language,
Yes,
Amy, that could be read into the record?
sure. I move that the Board of Commissioners of the Chittenden Solid Waste District go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations in regards to a lease agreement with the City of South Burlington, where premature general public knowledge would clearly place the district, its member municipalities, and other public bodies or persons involved at a substantial disadvantage, and to permit authorized staff, other invited interested parties, and the Solid Waste District Attorney to be present for this session.
So moved, Essex.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to note that the Zoom invite came from my email address on Friday, just so you have that. If you were looking for Sarah's, who normally sends it, it did come from me.
So we have a motion to enter executive session. Do we have a second?
Second, Charlotte.
Thank you, Charlotte. All those in favor of entering executive session, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? We will move into executive session using the link, as Amy just pointed out, that came from her several days ago. So we'll see you over in executive session in a few moments. Do we have a motion to exit executive session?
So moved, Essex.
So moved.
Second, Charlotte.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to exit executive session. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
If you're opposed, say nay. If you abstain, please let me know. We have now re-entered public session. The next item on the agenda is item number 7, administrative office lease, with an action requested to approve the lease. If the secretary would read into the record the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners approves the terms and provisions of the lease for 19 Gregory Drive with the City of South Burlington in the form presented at this meeting with such changes as the Executive Director may approve as being in the interest of the district.
So moved, Wilson.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Charlotte.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the executive director to enter into a lease agreement with the City of South Burlington. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, then all those in favor of the motion, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say nay and raise your hand. Abstentions?
South Burlington.
So noted. The motion carries, the resolution is approved, and the executive director is authorized to enter into a lease agreement with the City of South Burlington and solve our office building problems for at least the next 5 years and perhaps 7 or 10. Thank you very much, everybody. The last item on the agenda is other business. Is there any other business that the commissioners would like to bring before the board? Kelton?
Yep, I just want to give everyone a heads up. Wheels for Warmth, which is a great diversion opportunity for tires, is tomorrow from 2 to 6, as well as Friday from 2 to 6. It's open to the public. There's a drop-off location down in Rutland. There's one in Williston at 220 Avenue B. And then there's a tire sale on Saturday down in Barry at the Granite. I wish I knew exactly where it was. It moved this year. But great opportunity if you're looking for a set of winter tires or looking to get rid of a set of winter tires, and all the money goes to help heat Vermont homes in the winter. So it's a great way to keep, older tires that still have life left in them out of the landfill, and give other Vermonters some good use and keep Vermonters' homes warm during the winter. So if you want more information, I know there's a lot online, or you can reach out to me.
Thank you, Kelton, for bringing that up. Ken? We can't hear you.
Okay, yeah, can we get those, the addresses again?
Kelton, can you?
Yep, it's maybe can I just send over a link with some information, Paul, and have you send it out, or?
I'd be happy to.
If you'd send it to Amy, and she can take care of that.
Yep. I will send it to Amy right after the call, and then I'll have her send it out. But it's 220 Avenue B up this way. So it's right off Industrial Ave, right next to the MRF.
Thank you, Kelton.
Yep, thank you.
The only other comment I want to share is that November, because of Thanksgiving, all our schedules are moved earlier 1 week. Exec board would be the second Monday of the month, whatever date that is, and the full board meeting would be the third Wednesday of the month. So if you just remember.
The exec board would be November 7th, and the full board would be November 16th.
So if you just make note of that, folks, so you can all have a nice Thanksgiving. Alan?
2 items. I know there is an open house, I think it's the 8th of November at Glavel, which is the glass expansion firm. And I plan on attending just to figure out why we don't participate with them from their point of view. And the other item that I have a question on is today is the first day that I've ever taken any textiles to a drop-off center, because I didn't think we could do that until I saw a big pile of them. And what do we do with those textiles?
Let's go through a program called HelpSee. They are actually paying us by the pound to bring them down. They process them in Rutland at Rutland and then redistributed them as they see fit. We kind of rolled out a soft rollout this month to get the acceptance bins in place and work through some of the kinks, because we haven't accepted textiles for quite some time because our old vendor wasn't able to service us with the frequency we needed. We feel that there might be a backlog, and we didn't want to open the floodgates until we kind of worked out the operational kinks for a month. But there will be something coming sooner than later as far as an announcement to the public.
And do we pay for the transport to Rutland, or do they pick up?
They come pick it up for us. Seems
Okay.
pretty good deal so far.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
I didn't realize it, and then I saw it. So.
And I'll just mention that Josh and I toured Glavel this past winter, and it was really a great tour. It's really an interesting facility, and at the time, they're importing the glass that they need. It's very different than what we produce. It would have to be, processed further from how we make it for them to use it. But they indicated that they were interested in purchasing the equipment to do so at that time.
So that's November 8th, is this
think it's
Glavel tour?
November
How
8th.
would, if the other commissioners are interested, how do we,
I think it's just an open house.
okay, so you could probably go online to,
Yeah, I got-
Google Glavel and,
Yeah, I got the request to the Professional Engineers Association or something, but,
That's good.
good to know.
yeah.
Tom, your hand is up. Well, we've got a lot of others.
Yes, I was already, I just found out about Glavel a week ago. And my question is, if our new recycling facility goes into operation, would we be able to produce a product that they could use at their plant in Essex?
Under their existing setup, no, they need a significant amount of screening technology to meet to meet the material that we generate, because they do an extremely fine, very pure glass powder, and that's how it's an aggregate expansion process that they have. It's a really interesting product, but our material, because of the fiber content, they would have to go through some significant screenings before it could be usable for them.
That's even with the new MRF?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, any other business to discuss tonight? I think then we're ready for a motion to
Move we
adjourn.
adjourn, Essex.
Thank you. I believe it doesn't need a second. All those in favor, please, of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. We'll see you in 3 weeks, if not sooner.
Thank you.
Executive board meetings are always open to all commissioners and the public. Feel free to join in.